And we are back live here on the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey, producer Chris Daughtry behind the scenes for today's live show. We'll break down everything going on around the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sure there will be freak out over the Eagles winning a Super Bowl as well, so you can call it a therapy hour if you need to. We'll talk trade on today's show, as yesterday, not long after the Micah Parsons stuff came out, which we'll also discuss again on today's live show, Niners revealed that they are going to allow Deebo Samuel permission to seek a trade. I don't know if it's a guarantee he finds a trade partner necessarily. We'll break that down in depth on today's show. Would you trade for Deebo Samuel, though? Y for yes, N for no. Get those votes in for me in the comments section of today's video. Y for yes, N for no. I think we'll see a lot more no's than we would have seen, 3 years ago, back when we were initially talking about it, and Deebo was out there taking photos with Dak Prescott and liking tweets on social media and all that good stuff. Would you trade for Deebo, Y or N? I see a lot of N's in there. Calvin, Jace, Jason, Freak Burrito, which sounds really dirty. Roger, Ecuador Man, Kenya, Steven, Richard, Cam, all spamming in their no's. Some yeses, though. Landon's got a yes. A couple of people saying he's cooked in there. Malcolm says yes. Willie Reynolds says yes. Carlos says yes. Josh. But it's like, 75, 80% no on that front. So would you trade? It was a good point from Yekal. Would he fit the scheme? We'll talk about that. That's a very valid question to bring up. I don't want to give away the entire show as well. So would you trade for Deebo? Y for yes, N for no. I don't think it costs more than a day 3 pick, frankly, for those of you wondering. So value-wise, that's about the cost. It's the contract stuff that's a big issue there for Deebo Samuel. K5 Baby spamming their yes as well. Hayden Miller, a $5 super chat. We clearly looked like a different team with Micah. We are cooked if he's gone. What do you think, Tom? And what if who's your dream receiver 2 target and why? So I'll answer the first part as well here. When it comes to Micah, the issues that you're going to face on defense, I think, are pretty sizable. I don't know if that's going to be a situation in which you feel good about your defense. Like, let's say you get the Khalil Mack, Jalen Ramsey trade package. You get a top 10 pick, whatever, at edge rusher. Awesome. You're then immediately spending that first-round pick on an edge this year because you don't have enough pieces there. So you're downgrading, saving money, probably not being as aggressive as they should be in free agency again. So I think, in general, it's really hard for me to justify trading away guys that are on a very clear Hall of Fame path. You don't find guys putting up double-digit sacks, 12-plus sacks, in each of his first 4 seasons. Those guys don't exist. They don't. It's harder to find that guy than it is to make the rest of the roster work. I don't know if you're fully cooked, but I think you're making it more challenging on yourself. And for a team that already self-imposes enough challenges, I don't want to add another one in there. As for dream wide receiver 2 target, I would the dream scenario is if the top guys are gone in the draft and you don't get Ted McMillan or something. I am very intrigued by trade down, snag Luther Burden in round 1. I think that could be a really fun outcome for the Cowboys. I'm also not opposed to adding a older veteran on a 1-year deal in free agency or a 2-year deal in free agency. That would be intriguing to me as well. So when it comes to the Micah conversation, what would you do with him? T for trade, K for keep. Doesn't really pay him in the end. Go vote at the pin poll of today's show as well as keep/pay, because if you're keeping him, you're paying him. It doesn't make sense to do only one and not the other, so it's the same for me. T or K in the comment section of today's show. 85% voting pay/keep at that pin poll, which I think makes sense. Samuel, I have no faith in this team. Sorry, not sorry. No, I get it. I mean, I went on the very long rant today, just like borderline cussing out Jerry Jones for his comments again. Like, I get it. They don't. The disillusionment is completely fair. I find it harder to not have faith in them, or easier to not have faith than it is to have faith in them right now. Like, I agree. I like a lot of the moves this team has made coaching staff-wise, but that's only a fraction of the battle. Like, there's still so many front office spending woes that they have to address. If they don't address them, it's not going to matter. So I am very much the point, hey, they've got to earn that faith back. It cannot be given blindly. Gizmo2703. I read that Micah might give the team a team-friendly deal. If he does, how much cap space can we save and where do we spend it? So I don't know really how much of a team-friendly deal you're going to get from Micah Parsons. Team-friendly from that standpoint might be Micah agrees to not be the last one in line, or even pushes harder to not be the last one in line. Because if he wanted to, he could wait out a potential Myles Garrett trade, could wait out a Jamar Chase deal, and that raises the floor. Because whenever Micah signs that deal, I think the expectation should be he is getting paid the most of any non-QB in NFL history. And regardless of what they pay him, they will be able to free up cap space. The exact number depends on really what the signing bonus is. He's got $24 million owed this year. They can move almost all of that into and they really can move all of it into a signing bonus. That'll free up a lot of money. But at that point, you could save anywhere from it could be up to $18 million. Maybe it ends up being more like 16, 15, 14, somewhere in that range. It's a lot of salary cap space you save, though, by paying somebody. And between restructuring Dak as they're going to, restructuring Lamb as they're going to, it's easy. That's $70 million, just like that, without any other moves. That puts them in really, really good shape. Ecuador Man says, team isn't close, need to rebuild, why can't trade? If you want to rebuild, then okay, I actually get that part. This Cowboys team seems to not want to rebuild. They also seemingly don't want to do the things to actually be aggressive. My preferred path, and I get it I get where you're coming from too, my friend, is you have the quarterback under contract. You really can't save a lot of that money. The way it's structured, because you screwed up 5 years ago, 6 years ago when you didn't pay him on time the first time, was you don't have a lot of options there. Now, it would be a more multi-year rebuild if you want to tear it down, which is a plan, which is really all I ask for out of people. And I appreciate Ecuador Man having one of those. I'd say that if you just want to be aggressive, go for a 4-year window. And then, if you want to reevaluate after that, go for it. Because I'll also make note, 5 years from now, you could still trade Micah if you wanted to. 3 years from now, wouldn't be a huge, huge problem if you want to go down that path. Jacob Marshall, after seeing the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I pray Jerry Jones goes out and finds elite players. I sent out the tweets. It was it's the and other hilarious jokes you can tell meme. The Jones boys don't care. They didn't care when the Commanders and Eagles made it to the NFC Championship game. They didn't care when the Eagles won a Super Bowl, when the Giants won the Super Bowls. They don't. I would like it if this were true. I would like it if they would be motivated and they would at least realize if we want to win, we have to be more aggressive. You can't let the Eagles spend millions of dollars more than you each and every single season, oftentimes 5+ figures. It's approaching it's like $90 million the past 3 years, something they spent more than you. That's a massive competitive disadvantage. Imagine what this team could do if they spent $30 million or more per year in cash. Just imagine the differences of what they could do. That's so many more players you can add. All those roster holes you complain about, they filled some of them then. That's what they should be doing. Now, do you want the Cowboys to trade down in round 1? Well, we will do. I've promised it for a couple times now. It's time for it. We will do a Cowboys mock draft with trades. And I am a big believer in trading down versus trading up, especially and in particularly, that's a word, right? It's close enough to a word. In round 1. Because I value extra extra darts to throw. Draft is not an exact science. You're going to miss. You're going to miss picks. It's just going to happen. So if I get extra chances with premium picks to get good players, going 3 of 7 on a draft class, that's not the greatest. You only got 3 guys. It's not bad, but you can do better. You go, all of a sudden you go 5 of 9, 5 of 8. Oh, you're missing the same amount of picks, but you got more right in the end. And it ends up being a good volume play. Lone Wolf. So I've been out of it a little bit. How is our coaching staff looking beyond shoddy? I actually mostly like what they've done. I don't know about Nick Sorensen as a special teams coach. Seems like his players have always loved him, but maybe it's a better fit for him than EC. Eberflus kind of getting the gang back together on defense. I think that's mostly fine. I don't have any major issues there. His defense has always been pretty good, so I'm okay with that planning. The offensive coaching staff is different, and I'll give them credit for that. I actually like, they hire a coach, and I have to go, how do they know this guy? I'm so used to the Cowboys and all their coaches, being guys that they know, or, former fired head coaches. Like, that's noteworthy to me. So I like that they're going outside the box and trying different things. And that's not to say it's going to work, but I do like that idea. $20 from Dwayne Jackson. Thank you, Dwayne. With Jerry Jones' comments about free agency and being criticized for not spending money, safe to say that any coaching hire would have been end up being a hard no, because a new wants guarantees from Jerry Jones to improve, spend, and Jerry Jones wants yes men. I think Steven's a big factor in this too. I am very frustrated with those comments made by Jerry Jones. I went on my rant this morning about it. It's continual. It's not our fault. Crap. It's Harrison Ford and Star Wars going, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. That's what it is. And it annoys me because it is your fault. Like, they don't really want to take accountability ever. And I think that tends to trickle down from the top as an organization. And I think that's bad culture that you end up building because your ownership says, oh, it's not my fault. We paid Dak. What do you mean we didn't make the Super Bowl this year? I'm shocked by that. No. No one thought you were going to when you didn't make it far enough last year. I guess the year before that. And then you made no roster moves to improve. What are you doing? Like, it's annoying to me. There's only 32 jobs. The Cowboys' job should be among the most coveted because they have all the cash in the world to spend if they want to. The ownership finds a way to kind of continue to bring it down. And also, they didn't try. And Jerry didn't want to pay money to a coach. It's just annoying to me. From Nick, what do you think we can get for Parsons and from whom? I think at minimum, you should be able to get that Jalen Ramsey to the Rams the first time. Khalil Mack trade package. It should be 2 1s and some change. If not more than that, frankly. I wouldn't even, I might not do it for 2 1s. I might be asking for 3 1s. Like, what do you mean? I'm not trading away a elite pass rusher who, wherever you want to rank him, is the top 3 pass rusher in the NFL and a great current group of edges right now and is on a Hall of Fame path. I think there's a pretty long list of teams that would have interest in that, by the way. And you should be able to get a king's ransom because that is a player that we haven't really seen traded, that level of player. As much as I love Mack and Ramsey, they weren't on the level Micah's on right now. For Mark, it's a trick question, Tom. Depends on what the trade offer is. We need a total revamp of the D-line, coaching, and drafting. It's been bad for years. I wouldn't say it's been bad. You've had misses, but those misses get amplified when you don't address things in any other path to fill out your roster. Even the Eagles miss. The Eagles spent more money on one free agent in this offseason, total money, guaranteed money, than the Cowboys have spent in, I think it's 2 years, actually. And that guy didn't even play in the game. He was a healthy scratch. And they still won the Super Bowl. Like, there's the crux of your issue. They paid Bryce Huff, who I lock him over from the Jets, a lot of money. They didn't even put him on the field. They're like, he's not good enough. We're going to scratch him. They didn't miss him at all. Like, Eagles miss on draft picks all the time. It took Nolan Smith several years to get going. He kind of got going this year after a bit of a slow start to his career. Like, they are aggressive. Like, that's the sizable difference is that smart teams have enough assets devoted across the board, cash and draft picks and everything, that when they miss, it's not the end of the world. If the Cowboys paid Bryce Huff and he was a scratch in a playoff game, we would all lose our minds, and it would be debilitating for the Dallas Cowboys. They'd be like, this is why we can't spend money in free agency. Like, they thought Brandon Carr was a bad signing when he played every game for them. It's actually a good signing. And the expectations, this Cowboys team acts like one bad contract is debilitating. Like, oh my God. Talk about how they couldn't sign terms because they paid Zeke, and then they'd already cut Zeke. Like, no. Just move the money around if that's what you want to do. Just dumb. Ethan the Boss for life. I'm a Cowboys fan from Philly. Last night was hell. Boy, I can't imagine what you were going through. I would have probably turned my phone off, given the way my friends would be texting me. Bully Jerry into spending. I'm sick of the embarrassment. That's what I want to do. That is what I want to do. I would like to see this team be more aggressive. They have to be. Otherwise, it's just not going to work in the end. Now, if you are ready for the show to start, help us out by liking today's video. Goal is always a 50% like ratio. Help us out. Like the video on today's show if you haven't already done so. Byron Joe David, Eagles are about to sign Miles and Deebo. I don't know if they'll actually do those things, but it's also like, would anyone be that surprised? It's the Eagles. They're aggressive. I agree with the messaging there. And what are we doing? Resigning Eric Kendricks, hope for the best? This is lazy. That is my concern, is that is what they will end up doing. Is that they'll be like, we tried. Oh, well. We couldn't find the right value. They got to do something. Even if it's just signing like 4 or 5 Eric Kendricks-esque players, that's actually progress in the free agency side of things. Mark, other than Tank, named one defense lineman we have drafted that has a wow factor. Closest thing is Osa, and he's far from a wow. Our D-line guys don't scare anyone. You might be surprised by the money that Osa gets in free agency, by the way. I would not rule that one out. Again, I'm not saying that you don't miss on picks. But, again, we compare to the Eagles coming off the Super Bowl, right? They missed on how many wide receiver picks? Like, they drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside in the second round. They drafted Jalen Reagor in the first round. They went, this is bad. What are we going to do? Let's trade for A.J. Brown and then draft Devonta Smith. They're like, we're not going to let this just sit around and be an issue. What does Dallas do? They missed on Tristan Hill. They finally got some good play from Osa and Chauncey Golston as rotation pieces. What they do? Maybe they missed on Mozzie. We signed, Linval Joseph in August. Like, really? They're very different trains of attack there. If they are only going to do stuff to the draft, they will never be a good enough drafting team. They will never be. The Eagles had like 3x the players outside the organization that weren't drafted starting for them in the Super Bowl. It's a huge difference. They will never be a good enough drafting team if they only do it through the draft. It's not possible. You can't get enough good talent that way. Chris B, don't worry for the cap in 2020. They're going to destroy them. Yes, this is what Stephen Jones. I would not be surprised if Stephen Jones says something like this. I hope that the takeaway is, wow, you know what? They're making this work. Maybe we haven't judged the salary cap quite right. That should be the takeaway. That if you're not going to spend money, it's just not going to work for you. CJ DeYoung III, what's up with Tank? No one is talking about it with him. He is going to be a free agent. I think his contract voids this week, early next week, late this week, one of those two. He'll be a free agent. So we'll see what happens with Tank. I think he'd be a great fit in Eberflus's system. But coming off the injury, I think is a big factor there. And when exactly he's healthy is still kind of up for debate at this time. So, few more questions on the Super Chat side. They keep coming in. And then we'll start the show. Dwayne, $10. What happened to Wildcat Jerry that turned him into delusional Jerry? Is he feeling too burned about the Brandon Carr contract? Does one bad contract turn Jerry into a person screaming, "Get out of my lawn"? I think that's more of a Stephen Jones issue. Jerry, in many ways, is at times just a figurehead for the organization, and I think to an extent didn't want to just be completely in control and do everything and not have a secession plan. And in many ways it is secession because they are not serious people. But I think that the concern was he didn't want to be like Al Davis. He didn't want to just be off his rocker going rogue all the time. So he wanted to have a good support system in place. But his support system is heavily Stephen Jones. And I think Stephen just doesn't know ball, frankly. I think that's my biggest issue. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. I don't think Jerry knows as much either. They have nerfed Wildcat and Jerry. He's dead. He's gone. He's never going to come back. I don't see it happening. He is now win 10 games and hang around the rim Jerry. And that's not a good thing. Chris B, we are so far away from Philly, it's gross. I mean, yeah, you can go like roster position by position, right? Of like, hey, who on your team would start over the Eagles version of that guy? There's a couple spots you can make a real argument for, like who's better, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, but the overall receiving core is definitely better in Dallas. You could argue, I think you can definitely and would argue Tyler Smith over Landon Dickerson, but that offensive line is better at every single spot, like pretty easily. Maybe not easily at right guard, but like still pretty sizable. Like, I think the Eagles have 3 better defensive interior linemen than you do in Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter. I think Milton Williams is going to get paid more than Osa does on the open market if it comes to that. They got just as good, if not better, linebackers. Like Zach Bond's been a find for them, but $5 million on him. The cornerback room is also really good in Philadelphia because they invested in it. Like they knew they had needs, and they signed Quinyon Mitchell or drafted Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Maybe one of your teams is better than Reed Blankenship. Maybe that's what you're going for. But like, I think the biggest thing for the Eagles is like their 2 to 52 player rankings. Like take the quarterback out of it, so to speak. That is better than anybody in the NFL, and it showed up again against the Chiefs. Over under a week and a half before we sign a free agent. I will go under. It took them 3 days to sign Kendricks. Now that included them missing out on Kendricks, and then him going, actually, I'm going to go play for somebody else. I'm not going to go to San Francisco after all. I'm going to go reunite with Mike Zimmer, which I think was basically a Mike Zimmer-led move. Like, I need a linebacker. What are we doing here, guys? So I'll go under on that front. Zach Crosby, we signed Ken Dorsey. Any idea what for? We'll talk about that in the upcoming cuts here in just a second. I would expect that Dorsey's in like an analyst role. It might be very similar to the role that Brian Schottenheimer had before he got the OC. It was the who was the Panthers OC that left the Cowboys? Not Dable. That's wrong. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but it's the offensive analyst who like helps out with some pregame scouting and schematic stuff, and that will help the defense more. Not sure that'll be the case. Might help the offense more, but I think analyst type of role, kind of being involved and doing some pre-scouting of opponents, I think it could be a big factor there. All right, coming up on today's live edition of the Cowboys Report, following about a 20-minute bonus mailbag super chat session. I enjoyed that. Thank you, guys. It was fun. We got Cowboys news and rumors, coaching staff stuff leading the way, along with trade rumors on that. A mailbag. Get your question in via hashtag Cowboys or skip the line altogether. It was McAdoo. It was Ben McAdoo. That's who it was. Couldn't remember the name. So stupid. Cowboys mailbag. Get your questions in via hashtag Cowboys or super chat. And a mock draft with trades. All coming up live here on the Cowboys Report. Coming up on this edition of the Cowboys Reports by Chat Sports, we got Cowboys trade rumors, Deebo Samuel and Micah Parsons, plus a bunch of Cowboys coaching staff news, multiple coaches hired. Before we get into that, we have passed the 2,800 subscriber mark. Thank you all so much. 208,500,000 is the next metric. Hit that sub button if you haven't already for more free Cowboys videos. Let's begin with Deebo Samuel talk here. The Niners have granted Samuel permission to seek a trade, which he apparently requested before the season began, or I should say after the season ended, the exact before the offseason began. I'm not overly surprised Deebo wants out. He publicly was unhappy this past year in San Francisco, and also a bad sign when you're publicly unhappy and you're dropping passes a lot. That's normally not a very good combination. And Deebo's production has declined. Now, he was a 1,000-yard awesome playmaker in 2021. Wasn't as good in 2022. A little bit better in 2023. Not very good in 2024. This is at his age, his play style, you've got concerns of a declining player. Most importantly is the contract stuff. And this is kind of complicated with the Niners have done this deal, so we'll stay on this for a little bit. Right now for San Francisco, he has a $15.83 million cap hit. Now, he has a upcoming $15.43 option bonus that is due at the end of March 22nd. That will not all count on the salary cap in 1 year. It can be spaced out and would be spaced out over several years. So it's only a couple $1 million in terms of what would actually count on the cap. But The current dead money for Deebo, because they've restructured contracts, is almost $33 million. The Niners, if they trade away Deebo, would lose $15.2 million. It would bring the dead cap hit to $31 million, but there's still going to be that lingering $33 million if they keep him. So they're eating, about $31 million in 2025. They'd be saving about $33 in 2026, while also saving about $17.5 million in actual cash if they post June 1st Deebo or traded him. It's the same figure in the end. If the Cowboys trade for Deebo, that's what they would owe. $17.5-ish million in base salary, the option bonus, a workout bonus, and per game roster bonuses as well. That's a lot of money that's been banged up and is coming off of another bad season. So would you trade for Deebo Samuel? It's the pinned comment on today's show. Why for yes and for no? Let me know in the comments of today's video. Given the amount of money that Deebo Samuel was owed, I would not rule out a possibility of him being cut. I think that's a big reason why the Niners said, yes, you know what, go search for a trade. Because if they can find a team willing to take on that money, they'd be more inclined to do it because it gets them a draft pick when they're going to eat the money no matter what. $17 million for the guy we saw last year, that's not good value. And at his age, his play style, and at times his attitude and focus, it seems like that's a dangerous potential trade for me. Now, the idea of Deebo Samuel, the best version of him, is one I've always wanted on this team. I also question if this coaching staff is good enough to use him properly. I don't know if that's the reality this Cowboys team is facing. And I feel bad doing this, but it's football. Why is Deebo built like me? Why? Why is that there, that little nice little bagginess? There ain't supposed to be that there. Like, you're an NFL player. Why are you built like me? And there were even comments mid-season like, hey, is Deebo a little bit heavy? It looks like that's the case. I also hate the fact that he's wearing an Eagles jersey. That's not a good sign for me. Look, prime Deebo, hell yeah, I'm in. I have no complaints about that. I am very concerned he is not that guy anymore. I'm not going to go so far yet as to say he is washed, but we are on cooked watch. And that's not a fun spot to be because we've been through it many times with players in recent years where I'm like, this guy might not be the same guy anymore. Sometimes they are. A lot of times they aren't. Today's show is made possible by Z-Biotics. They are the maker of the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It is this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Remember to drink it before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Sometimes when those game day super chats come in, I don't feel so good the next day. At least I didn't before we got hooked up with Z-Biotics. They're a real game changer. Stay in the loop and go to zbiotics.com/chatsports. You can also scan the QR code on screen today to get 15% off your first order when you use code CHATSPORTS. And you can get a subscription so that you can stay prepared at the time or the occasion. Z-Biotics backed by 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS at checkout, 15% off your order. Thank you to Z-Biotics for sponsoring today's show and our good times. I want to re-hit the Micah Parsons stuff with some updated reporting that's gone on. NFL Network reports the Cowboys, as we mentioned on Sunday's show, have had some internal discussions about trading Micah. And my big question is this. Was this a leak by the Dallas Cowboys? Is this them doing their normal contract time BS? Or is this NFL Network trying to get some clicks and views and generate Cowboys hype on a game day as they've often done before? Or is it a bit of both? Would either be a surprise? We've seen both of them. Like the Cowboys, as we get to from CeeDee Lamb's perspective, always do this nonsense at contract time. It's never simple. It's never easy. Like CeeDee Lamb quote tweeted one of the aggregates on this saying, y'all aren't tired of this? Every offseason top of the charts. Let's just win ball games, and that's with 11. SMH. I agree with CD. I am tired, like I think so many of you are, of dealing with extra nonsense around this franchise that makes it harder to win games. Your job as an organization is to make it easier, not harder, and the Cowboys make it harder every single year. NFL Network, ESPN, though, they love those Cowboys game day stories. They love doing it. Do it all the time. Normally it's an outdated story, but it's fresh. And the Cowboys, in the end, love the attention. We were all talking about the Cowboys again on the Super Bowl day, weren't we? We were all doing it. It would be nice, one time, to have a quiet, top-of-the-market contract extension. Micah's your chance. Just get it done. Now, Clarence Hill said to stop the drama, said Micah is not getting traded. And I do think that is the far more likely outcome. I would just like to have this wrapped up before free agency and not to deal with nonsense around, August and September and missing out on cap space there. So what would you do with Micah Parsons? Would you trade him? Type in T. Or would you keep him? Type in K. Wrap up here with some coaching staff updates here. Connor Riley is the new offensive line coach. This one breaking over the weekend. He was the Kansas State co-OC most recently and was the O-line coach at the same time. He was also the play caller. I don't think Kansas State fans were so broken about him leaving as the OC. He was a very good offensive lines coach. Was also at North Dakota State for a long time with the current Kansas State head coach. Also, small world, replaced Clayton Adams at Sac State as the O-line coach. They weren't on the same staff together, but there was that connection there. Junior Adams is the new wide receivers coach coming over from Oregon as the Cowboys continue to dip into the collegiate ranks. He was the Oregon co-OC, non-play caller, the wide receivers coach, then was at Washington for several years, Western Kentucky, Boise State with this guy named Cedric Wilson, and also Cooper Kupp at Eastern Washington, which we will come back to in a little bit. That is a connection there that's worth going more in depth on. Carlos Polk, not a huge surprise here. We kind of expected this to be the case, predicted it. The assistant special teams coach was under Matt Eberflus in Chicago, was with Nick Sorensen in Jacksonville, was with Brian Schottenheimer in Jacksonville, was a brief kind of overlap to an extent with Schottenheimer and the crew in San Diego, former Cowboys assistant coach, so this one made a lot of sense. Dallas not done. They are also working to hire former Bills and Browns OC Ken Dorsey. Nothing firm on the role. It sounds like analyst is going to be the expectation here. So probably some advanced scouting stuff, probably trying to stay ahead of the curve on schematics to the extent that the Cowboys haven't done a good job with there. Curious how much impact he'll actually have. This could also be Dorsey kind of taking that almost gap year and then trying to be an OC or a quarterback's coach somewhere else again next offseason. Matt Zenitz, meanwhile, this is a CBS Sports reporter. The Cowboys set to hire UTEP defensive coordinator J.J. Clark as a defensive assistant. Now, your main coaching roles are all kind of filled up right now. And Clark has done linebacker stuff before. So I don't know what his role is going to be. I am kind of intrigued by this one because this is you're hiring a G5 DC to come be a probably lower level defensive assistant. But I think to an extent, college coaches get paid more because they have no free time. They get like a week or two off sometimes. It's just nonstop go, go, go. I think that's why you're seeing so many college coaches have interest in jumping for downgrades in pay and titles to the NFL. So what is your one-word reaction to the coaching staff the Cowboys have put together so far? We'll eventually do a full grades on it once I think that quarterback's coach role gets finalized. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Let's go to Junior Adams. There is a very real Cooper Kupp connection here with, of course, Kupp on his way out of LA at some point in the near future. He was his coach at Eastern Washington, and Kupp is a big fan of Adams. This is what Cooper Kupp once said. I have had a lot of coaches throughout my career as a football player. None have had a greater impact on me than Coach Adams. His ability to coach the wide receiver position is unmatched to his knowledge of the game as a whole, as well as his ability to maximize the potential of every one of his players physically and mentally. He's the best there is. Now, Kupp, I think there's a chance he gets cut. The Rams willing to eat some more of the money, I think, makes it not as likely. But there is that connection. And, if Kupp gets to choose his destination, whether it's a release or a trade, that could help the Cowboys in that angle, knowing he wants to compete. Now, Kupp's contract is the big issue here. He's got a $12.5 million base salary. It's a decent amount of money. A $7.5 million roster bonus, 5 of which is guaranteed. How much of this number do the Rams eat? That would impact, I think, the Cowboys' level of interest. It is mailbag time here on the Cowboys Report. 2 ways to get on the show. We'll get to Gizmo 2703 and Dwayne Jackson's Super Chats as part of the mailbag. But if you don't want a Super Chat, that's perfectly fine. Get them in via hashtag Cowboys. I'm going to sip some water here, too. Gotta stay hydrated after all. So get those questions in via hashtag Cowboys. You can also skip the line altogether via Super Chat. Jay Scatton, I see your Super Chat. Thank you very much. I know there's no question in there, but I'll keep an eye on the comments. So sometimes people put in the Super Chat before they meant to, and then just comment the question. So we'll get to that here in just a second as the mailbag gets going. Hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat. A super thanks to begin today's show from CJ DeYoung III. Hey, Tom. So what did Darren Woodson do or not do that keeps him from getting into the Hall of Fame? Thanks. I think the biggest reason is, I'm not saying I agree with it, is that the one thing that Darren Woodson is missing is he does not have an all-decade team to his name. And in general, if you are a member of the NFL's all-decade team, you normally get in. Now, my issue, and I think that the reason why that happened is for some reason, the NFL made Ronnie Lott an all-decade safety for the 1990s. Ronnie Lott had 5 years, 1990 and 1994, was an All-Pro and Pro Bowl for 2 of them. That Darren Woodson had 3 in that time frame, 3 All-Pros in that time frame. I don't really know why Lott was put in there. He was just a clear 1980s all-decade team. I don't know why he won it in the 90s. If he had that, I think that he would be in already. My real concern for Darren Woodson, beyond I think there is some anti-Cowboy stuff, I can't put another Cowboy in, is I don't know when he's going to get in. Because these upcoming classes are really good. And that's going to be a problem for him. Steven, on a similar note, which is worse, Woodson not making the Hall of Fame and the Eagles winning the Super Bowl? I mean, they both sucked. Make no mistake about that. But the Eagles already won one. I kind of, that first one felt worse for me. I think I feel worse for Woodson in particular. Now, all these came in via Super Thanks, a feature here on YouTube. You can edit your message, send it in, click the thanks icon, whatever it is. We will give you a shout-out on the show. Click that little heart with a $sign if you're watching on demand, i.e. not live, and send it in. A couple more super thanks to get to. From Josh, what has the city of Dallas done for the sports gods to have condemned us like this? The Rangers and Stars are good. Maybe Jerry sacrificed too many souls to get his early Super Bowls. This was in reference to the Micah trade rumors, and then, of course, the Luka trade, which was so stupid. David, great show. Dead on. This is on the show from Monday morning about my anti-Jerry comments again. This team has run like it's 20 years ago, hence the retread coaches and the family ties hires. Remember, Jerry said anyone could coach this team after Jimmy left. He still really believes that. Stagnant. I think Jerry's biggest fear is that it was all Jimmy, that it wasn't Jerry, that Jimmy did it all and Jerry just kind of rode the coattails. I think that's his biggest fear. So he really wants to win his way, and he doesn't want to do it a way that wouldn't get him all the credit. And Steven, too. From Chuck, do you buy the Micah trade rumors? To an extent, sure. Fully, no. The timing of that, the article itself, if you read it, was like, they're also pushing Max Crosby trade, which I don't buy either. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I look stupid. Not the first time. Won't be the last time either. This kind of felt like just general attention getting for NFL Network and for the Cowboys to an extent, too. Also, Rapka emphasizing at least some. Okay, that was the same as like the Deion Sanders reporting of there's at least some interest, and that never was actually all that close. So I wonder if that's the same. Now, what would you do with Micah Parsons? T for you trade him, K for you'd keep him. Let me know at the pinned comment of today's show. Gizmo 2703. If you're the GM of the Cowboys, who would you get in free agency? We'll have the top free agent list out there. I am open to doing a variety of things. Like I would, in particular, I would like to sign a veteran wide receiver. That could be Stephon Diggs. It could be Amari Cooper. It could be, worst case, a Darius Slayton as a vertical threat. I would like to add like a Will Hernandez to my offensive line. I think that'd be a pretty sound move. Then affordable, too. I want to overhaul my defensive line room. If I keep Osa, great. If not, I'll sign Javon Kinlaw and Poona Ford. Boom, I did it. And I'll draft somebody, in the first 3 rounds. I'll keep Rico and sign a back. I'll try to find a veteran corner that might be a little bit tricky given the market, to be fair. I will sign a starting caliber linebacker. Maybe it's not Nick Bolton. Maybe it's someone lesser, like a Robert Spillane even. That's not the sexiest name, but it works. And I can do all of that in my budget, too. $20, Dwayne Jackson. Thank you, Dwayne. I know Ashton Jeanty is the number 1 back on the board. Which back in this, at least wear and tear as in mileage? If the Cowboys pass on Jeanty, I would consider Henderson the second. McMillan, if he is still there in round 1. So I think you mean McMillan, T-Mac in round 1. Wouldn't be opposed to Travion Henderson. I do think to an extent you would be pretty wise if you, and I like Henderson a lot. I would strongly consider him in round 2 as well. I think you'd be smart to consider having a Rico Dowdle-esque. Could be someone better. Could be a draft pick even. I think you want someone to pair with Henderson. He was at his best this year when Quinshon Judkins took on a pretty big workload as well. The SMU kid, Brashard, I think it is Brashard Smith. I think that's his first name. I may be wrong on that one. He's kind of like convert receiver, so he's got a pretty lesser wear and tear on him. Dylan Sampson doesn't have massive wear and tear either. Among like the earlier round, it is Brashard. It is Brashard, by the way. Doesn't have massive wear and tear. Genty's got a lot, but a lot of the good backs of this class have a not insignificant amount. But that's how it goes. You play running back your whole life, you're going to have lots of wear and tear. Maybe not as much as Zeke did even. That's why I like Bijan so much, because Bijan didn't have that wear and tear because he got banged up a couple times. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is available in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Florida. Obviously, football season is now over. Basketball still underway. Baseball just around the corner. Our baseball insider, Jack Lotteray, hooking up this one, even if the Duran pick there is him being a little bit of a homer on the Red Sox side. Do the flex play. That way, if you get one wrong, you can still come out on top. You only got to go 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5 to cash out. Download the Prize Picks app today over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get that $50 win or lose once for that first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Jay Scatton. He commented his super chat. He says, finally get Garrett Wilson and draft Jeanty. I think he could become a top 5 offense. I also wouldn't mind Tyler Warren. He could do a lot of different things on offense. If I could convince the Jets to give me Garrett Wilson for a second-round pick, I would do that so fast. I do think with the Jets set to move on from Aaron Rodgers, probably means Garrett Wilson stays in New York, which is just them being not stupid for once. I think you can still get Jeanty at 12. We'll see if it happens. I think it's possible. It's in the real range of outcomes. I wonder if Tyler Warren gets to you. He could also end up being a Jet, by the way. That would make a lot of sense to me. I'm going to mock that one pretty frequently, I think. He can do a lot of different things, too. I think you need a second and probably third playmaker. One of them has to be a pass catcher, but one can be a back as well. Probably should be a back. Dwayne Jackson, Tom, select 10-5. Every team in the NFC has made an NFC title game except for the Cowboys. Isn't it every NFC team has made it, period? With the Commanders, isn't it every single one now? Pretty sure it is. It's not fun. And the Cowboys seemingly aren't overly bothered by it. Ronald, Cooper Kupp or Tez Johnson come in with the Junior Adams hire. Again, that's the Oregon receivers coach now in Dallas in the same role. We have mentioned the Kupp relationship previously. It helps you a little bit. Like, I think it gives you some insight into like, hey, this guy could be this or that. Like, it helps your draft process. I also, it is a very fine line between like letting your coaches have influence, input on the NFL draft process and like kind of tossing out all the draft work you did and, okay, we took the guy the receivers coach wanted. There's a fine line there. I think Tez Johnson should be under consideration already. And I think where it most comes into play is no one's going to have a better feel for the person that Tez Johnson is really than I think Junior Adams. Not to say he's going to be a bad one or anything, or like a bad guy or anything. I don't think that's the case, period. But I think you have good insight there. When it comes to getting the much-needed wide receiver help, how would you do it? D for draft, T for trade, F for free agency. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Joshua Castillo, what do you think of Desmond Watson of the Florida Gators? I believe he turned pro this year. Like, I'm pretty sure. I think he went back to school. In fact, I'm like 99% sure that's the case. This man takes fatties only to an extreme even I am uncomfortable with. Desmond Watson is a massive human being. He is listed at 6'5", 400 pounds. That is his listed weight. I honestly don't know if he played at 400 pounds. Now, that's the Pro Football Reference, but I think ESPN had like a 369. No, actually, I'm looking at ESPN. ESPN was at 6'5", 449. He's too big. He's too big. He has to shed weight. You cannot weigh, let's just say it's 400 pounds. You cannot weigh 400 pounds and have that all be good weight. It's not possible. There's bad weight on him. He has to shed weight. He has to drop 100 pounds. Get him to 350, 360, 370 even. And I think we can talk a bit more. But right now, as fun as he is and as fun as the occasional fat guy handoff they give him at Florida, I don't. He did wear 21 to 40. You're right, Ecuador man. I don't think he is physically ready to play in the NFL quite yet. Now, as an undrafted free agent, I want him on my team. I want him real bad because it's fun. Brent Edwards, Dallas can create $100 million in cap space. If they do it, how? Who should they spend it on? Look, I'm fine like going for the Cowboys lineup. We got to save some of it for Tyler Smith and Deron Bland. Cool, it's fine. You need to find starting caliber players in free agency. And you need to know going in, you're probably going to miss on a player or two, or three if you sign like 7 or 8 or 9. But you should go get a wide receiver too. You should have a starting caliber back, even if that's just re-signing Rico Dowdle. You should probably add, one, if depending on what you do with Terrence Steele, one offense lineman. That could be a cheaper guy, but you should have one guy. You should sign probably, I'd sign 2 defensive linemen and then draft 2. Seriously, I would. Because right now I got Mozzie under contract and that's it. I am in dire straits there. You probably got to bring back 1 or 2 of your edges or sign somebody else. You got to get a veteran linebacker in there. I would love to find a way to get an impact veteran corner. That could be tough given the market and the money, but it's an ideal scenario for me. And I wouldn't be opposed to safety either. Like if you're moving on from Hooker and Wilson, go get a safety. I doubt they go pay for Trayvon Merrick, but I would love that. Or Javon Holland coming off a down year. Now we'll have more Cowboys news for you. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/CowboysTV. Julian, it's mind-blowing how the script is flipped. The Eagles are built and run how the Cowboys were in the 90s, and the Cowboys are now like the Randall Cunningham Eagles. It's Cowboys legend, Randall Cunningham for you. Yeah, I mean, the Eagles have built this incredible team and roster, and they are consistently aggressive the way Jimmy was. Frustrating. I agree. Fred, what draft pick can help us beat the Eagles? In general, you're not one player away. I do want to emphasize that. You're multiple. Now, you can get multiple players, but you got to do free agency too. You have to spend some money. You're not just a player away. You're not. You need multiple guys. You have too many needs to just be like, we just have to draft this player. They're good players you can get. You have to do more than just one guy. Now, coming on the draft idea here, who is your dream Cowboys draft pick? Let me know in the realistic somewhat. So, like, Abdul Carter, Hunter would be great. Yes, it's not going to happen. Give me your dream Cowboys draft pick in the comments of today's show. Also, this question for you. How mad are you that the Eagles won the Super Bowl? 1 to 10. I'm not mad. I'm just like a little disappointed and sad, frankly. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. I already watched them win 1. Does 2 really matter? I don't know. It does, but like I'm not nearly as heartbroken about it as I would have been had they not won any. I kind of feared that they were going to win because I'm like, this team, they're just a better team. They're a better team. So 1 to 10, go vote in the comments of today's show. Dwayne, Tom, who is your under-the-radar wide receiver the Cowboys should look at in the later rounds of the draft if they pass on them in day 1? Okay. Day 2, second round, I really like Elike Omenor out of Stanford. He was held back by straight-up bad quarterback play at Stanford, and he's got some incredible highlight reel plays. I'm intrigued by him. He's not really much of a under-the-radar guy after the Senior Bowl, but I do think Jack Besh does a lot of what I think the Cowboys want to do at receiver. I think he fits that role pretty well out of TCU. I think Jalen Royals out of Utah State is a very underrated receiver who I think could also be a prime day 2 candidate. Day 3, if Torrey Horton's there, I'm intrigued by that one. I think he, coming off an injury, had a good career at Colorado State, though. I think your boy Ja'Cory Brooks is pretty good for Louisville this year, Chris. And then a guy I like a lot, because I don't know if he's going to be more than like a number 3, but he's going to be a stud special teamer, is Ricky White III out of UNLV. He had how many punt blocks? Was like 3 this year or something? And was like the number 1 receiver. He was really, really good. It was really good. And then beyond that, Daquan Felton's got big size. He's a little bit slow, kind of a later round guy. I think Kyle Williams impressed people at the Senior Bowl. Brew McCoy's talented, but I kind of just don't trust him to ever stay healthy either. But those are all like late day 3 guys. Chris B, we are 1 more bad draft away, another no free agency edition away from being in deep shit, fighting for 3rd place. Washington, Philly going to be better. I actually do agree with this. Like, I do think you should be in position to, like, you have to do well this offseason. Otherwise, it's like, you're probably already in 3rd place right now. I don't think anyone's going to be objective and say, yeah, the Cowboys are better than the 2 teams that made the NFC Championship game last season. Now, maybe there are injuries, maybe there's regression, you get better, whatever, but like, I think you're clearly behind the Commanders and Eagles in the division right now. Zach, the stepbrother scene where Brendan yells at his stepdad to give him money for prestige worldwide is how we feel towards Jerry with free agents. Do we ever get to go to the Catalina Wine Mixer? Because that becomes the Super Bowl in this analogy, I think. It's a great movie, by the way. Everyone loves Step Brothers. Not even if there was a fire, Jerry. Not even if there was a fire. All right, CJ DeYoung, Chris B. We're already there. I'll kind of not, because I think you're right. But different comment as Chris gets set up here for the mock draft. I actually don't think you're in purgatory yet. You're not there yet, but you are dangerously close to faltering and then being in purgatory. You can't win 10 games a bunch of years in a row and 12 games in a row and be in purgatory. But you're close to being in that spot. You're close to being where the Saints are right now. That's a bad spot to be, where you're kind of stuck in between, fringe top 10 draft pick and like the Cardinals are, but they're at least upward building. That can be a bit of a dangerous spot there. Today's Cowboys Report, as promised, and as you've asked for, it is a Cowboys mock draft with trades. In fact, I did multiple trades in this mock draft because why not? It's February. Let's have some fun with it. If you want more Cowboys draft coverage, I'm not going to promise a mock draft a week, but I'm not going to not promise it either. Like the video if you want even more Cowboys draft videos. I'm using the PFF sim here, so blame them if you don't like the players that went or were available or the trades I made. It's their fault. The sim picks: Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Mason Graham. Nothing shocking there. Ted McMillan goes 6. Tyler Warren goes 7. Will Campbell goes 8. Will Johnson 9. Mike Green off the board at 10. And upsetting, I know at least some of you, Ashton Genty is off the board here. Boise State running back to the 49ers. So the players on the board then. James Pierce is among the better edge rushers there. There's other guys too. Luther Burden and Emeka Egbuka are there at wide receiver. Multiple offensive linemen. Josh Simmons, Kelvin Banks. The 4-ish guys. I don't really want to go edging round one, but I like Pierce. 4-ish guys that I have a lot of interest in. I'm going to trade down, though. The Bucs came calling. They had interest. PFF agreed to this trade, so blame them. A first, a second, and a 4 to move down 7 spots. I want more draft assets. I get an extra near top 50 pick, an extra top 20 pick. That can help me build out my roster. So they agree to the trade. I move down. And the board doesn't fall the way I wanted it to, quite frankly. Luther, I was surprised. I did not think the Bucs were moving for it. It looked like it'd be coming up for an edge. So I was kind of mad about that one. So there goes Luther Burden. Kelvin Banks was off the board. Malachi Starks goes off the board. The Falcons take Emeka Egbuka. I don't really get it, but okay. James Pierce is gone. Michael Williams is gone. And Josh Simmons is gone, too. So the 5 guys I'd mentioned off the board in those 7 picks. That kind of sucks, frankly. So other guys who are on the board. I decided to not put Kenneth Grant here to spare some of you. Not a bad pick, though. Jahdae Barron of Texas, who I'm a big fan of, he's there. But can I spend a first-round pick on a corner right now? I don't know. Matthew Golden's the next best receiver. Walter Nolan intrigues me. We have not done a mock draft yet where we took an offense lineman in round 1. With extra picks, now is the time to do it. I like Membu a lot. He didn't get beat very much at Missouri. I have a tough time not putting him as I kind of begin to stack my board. I think he's going to be a top 15 player for me. There's just not a lot about his game that I'm putting in the negative category. He is literally short. I think that's why some people think he's a guard, because he is not tall. He's like maybe 6'4", and you don't normally see tackles who are quite that short. But he didn't get beat in pass protection. He's got great size, like 332 pounds. He has 34-inch arms. As long as he tests the way I think he should test, I don't have a lot of concerns here. I just think he's a good player. So he can be my new right tackle if I want to move on from Terrence Steele, or I can put him in at guard for the time being. So do you want the Cowboys to trade down in round 1? I'll be honest, I really wanted Luther Burden. I'm kind of mad it didn't happen. That was like my dream mock draft scenario. Didn't happen in this one. So that's part of the Sims. We'll keep doing different ones here. Do you want to trade down? Y for yes and for no? Let me know at the pinned comments of today's show. Now, there was a player who fell to 36 that even though he's not the biggest position of need, I couldn't not go get him. So I'm going to take my couple of my fifth rounders that I don't care about because it's the 5th round in a not super deep draft. I'll move 150, 172, 175. I'll move up 8 spots, and I will get a player that I have a first-round grade on. That is Jahdae Barron out of Texas. Now, I know corners maybe not the biggest need right now. If you lose Jordan Lewis, it's going to be. And if you move on from Trayvon Diggs down the line, that will also be an issue there. I have a first-round grade on him. Now, he's an older prospect. He's going to be 24 in December. I don't think he has great length. He got that dog in him. He has ball skills and is a great tackler. For all the complaints that I've seen about the tackling of the corners, which I think actually does matter some of Matty Buff's defense, I think Barron can be an impact player in that regard. I think he has immensely high football IQ. I see some Lions rookie year Brian Branch. Now, he's probably more of an outside corner, but he can play nickel or safety. He is one of my best 5. I am a huge fan of his game. I don't think he's going to fall to 36, but he was there in the sim, so I moved up to go get him. Other guys that were on the board here, Jack Besh was there at a TCU, was very intrigued by that one because I think he fits what the Cowboys are probably going to do on offense. Xavier Watts is there. I like TJ Sanders out of South Carolina. I think that's an under the radar to an extent, like top 50 pick. Caleb Johnson from Iowa is there. Donovan Jackson, if you wanted to double dip at O-line, which I'm certainly not going to. But if you want to go like receiver, then O-line, that could have been in play for the Cowboys as well. Today's show is made possible by Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. It is or when you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It is this byproduct, not dehydration, that is to blame for your rough next day. Free alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Remember to drink this product before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. I am now on the wrong side of 30. I cannot hang the way I used to. And especially for the next morning, ZBiotics comes in handy on the regular. It is a real game changer. Go to ZBiotics.com/chatsports. You can also scan the QR code that's on screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use code CHATSPORTS at checkout. You can also get a subscription using my code, so you can prepare for the time or the occasion. ZBiotics, back with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Go to ZBiotics.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS at checkout for 15% off. Thank you to ZBiotics for sponsoring this episode and our good times. So round 2, other guys that are off board between my extra second-round pick that I got via the trade down. TJ Sanders goes. Cam Scattaboo goes. I know many of you are upset by that one. Kind of some weird picks here, frankly. Ariante Ursari's off the board to the Dolphins. They double dip at offensive line. Bengals go Carson Schwarzenegger at linebacker. Seahawks draft another running back in Dylan Sampson. So some notable guys who are on the board. Travion Henderson is there. Omar Norman Lott if you want defensive tackle. Kyle Kennard is there. Xavier Restrepo is the best receiver. Cam Williams, a big hulking offensive line. But I'm going to go with Caleb Johnson. That is the Iowa running back who I was very surprised in the sim that Dylan Sampson went in front of him. That kind of didn't make a lot of sense to me. I like what Caleb Johnson offers at running back. He had a rotational role the first couple years at Iowa and had a massive step forward this year. Also caught 22 passes, by the way. 508 career carries, 6.4 yards per carry this year in an offense that everyone knows just wants to run the football. In a really great class, I do think Caleb Johnson has the ability to be a number one back, listed at 6'2", 225, by the way, so got some good size in there as well. All right, third round, some recent picks here. Kevin Winston out of Penn State goes to the Niners. Couple different defensive linemen, Darius Alexander, Alfred Collins. I am glad I took back in round 2 because Quinshad Judkins off the board and a lot of the good backs kind of were off the board between that round 2 and round 3 pick. So I am glad I did that. Now, maybe Judkins would have been there and everyone would have been pushed down, but still. So on the board in the third round, notable players. Jalen Royals, Elijah Arroyo, which I already spent my non-luxury pick on a corner. I can't go tight end here, even though I do like Arroyo a lot at pick 76. Isaiah Bond, very intrigued by that one. Jordan Phillips. Tez Johnson was there. Really thought about wide receivers here. There's a couple guys I like. I would have loved to have had one more top 120 pick to secure one. Thought about trading down. I'm going to go with a more aggressive defensive pick here. And I'll pretend I signed Stephon Diggs or Amari Cooper in free agency. I'm going to go Deion Walker. And this is a term I use called I am scare-roused with him. I am aroused because this is a massive human being who doesn't move the way players his size are supposed to move. He is massive. Deion Walker is, I think his Senior Bowl measurements came in. He was 6'5", almost 6'7", 340. Massive human being with almost 35-inch arms. Kentucky put him at defensive end and dropped him into coverage at times. And it worked. He broke up passes. Now, the issue was he wasn't as good this year as he was last year. I wanted a better season. I didn't get that. Kentucky in general just wasn't very good, and I think that might have been a pretty big factor there. He also plays like he's 6'7", and that's a negative. He plays too tall, and low man wins. Leverage. I would actually consider him not so much a nose guard. I might put him at 3 technique, where he doesn't have to always have that low man leverage. It can be a bit more of a taller player. It's still the size I think will be an issue, but I think the uniqueness that he brings, despite me being a concern of a tweener, he has the quicks to play that role. He's a great athlete. In the third round, I will gamble on that one. But it is a gamble. Now, who is your favorite player in the 2025 NFL Draft? Let me know in the comments section of today's show.
We'll go faster. A lot of the receivers were gone, and that one, I won't lie, was pretty heartbreaking. I would have loved. Tez went like 10 picks before this, and I was pretty mad about that one. Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. This is an experienced wide receiver who I think can compete for a role right away. Now, he didn't have great production this year. He was really banged up. The previous 2 years, though, he was a 1,000-yard receiver for Colorado State. He was a big factor in why that offense went. He could have gone pro last year and probably would have been a near top 100 pick. So, you might not know him because he was hurt all year. He's very good. Some of you like this pick, too. Danny Stutzman out of Oklahoma. This is a run-stopping linebacker who has the height that we've sometimes seen Matt Eberflus like in his linebackers. I have coverage concerns with Stutzman. I don't trust him to hold up in a lot of coverage spots. But it's also the 5th round. So that's kind of how it goes sometimes, where I don't have the same volume of assets that I necessarily would in terms of like top-end players. But guy that kind of can be a rotational backup for you and up on special teams, 5th round, that makes sense. Now, for more Cowboys NFL draft videos, hit that sub button right now. YouTube.com/CowboysTV. Now, I'm going to play Walker kind of more as a 3, even some 4-eye stuff. How about Jamari Caldwell out of Oregon? Another big boy on the interior. This is the other Oregon defensive lineman who put up far better production in Houston in 2023, but the pressures were there in 2024. This is not a stat sheet stuffer, but he was a pressure generator for Oregon, and I think double dipping on the defensive line is actually a sound idea. Round 7, I'm a little surprised he's there. I'm going to go with Malachi Moore out of Alabama. This is safety depth, who I think early on can help on special teams. I don't think he's going to be some superstar elite end safety. There were at times his career was kind of a bit up and down. He had the meltdown against Vanderbilt, which I thought was just not very good leadership. But overall, I think we'll get pretty good reviews for that at Alabama. Can do some overhang, can do some safety stuff. This is like your 8th or 9th best, somewhere in that range, defensive back who I think will be a good special teamer. All right, the Cowboys mock draft. Again, I will always try to do different picks than I did previously because that's boring otherwise. Armand Membu out of Missouri in the trade down. Jahdae Barron out of Texas in round 2, along with Caleb Johnson. Deon Walker in round 3. Torrey Horton in the 4th. Danny Stutzman in the 5th. Jamari Caldwell in the 6th. And Malachi Moore in the 7th. So be honest with me. For the Cowboys mock draft, A, B, C, D, or F, let me know in the comments section of today's show. Give some shout-outs here. Let me do one thing for you guys. Eagles fan is in timeout. Happy now? I don't know. If it were me, I would not be trolling a different team's fan base when I won a Super Bowl. Like, I would be celebrating it. Not online at 5 p.m. Eastern. Get a life, nerd. B, B minus, A minus, B, C, C minus, C minus, C. Daniel, I'll be honest. Armand Membu is not a no-name offensive tackle. Check back in April and watch where he goes. And he will not be a no-name OT. I promise you on that one. Get those votes in A, B, C, D, or F. Appreciate everyone who is voting and has watched today's live show. Back live again on Thursday for the next live Cowboys Report, 3:50 p.m., sometimes 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Depends on how the day goes. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/CowboysTV.